Welcome, everybody, to the Big Book Roundtable in the RICO 12 family of recovery resources. This service is targeted at people from all backgrounds, faiths, places, dealing with addictions of all varieties, every manifestation of alcoholism, whatever that may look like. RICO 12 is also a resource for the loved ones of addicts. And we're going through some stuff right now that are targeted. The readings are targeted to the loved ones of alcoholics. So we're going to be diving deep into that here, and we have been for several weeks, and we'll continue for several more. I'm Justin B., a child of an all-powerful and perfectly loving God, and a multidisciplinary addict living in the one day at a time miraculous recovery that is promised as we practice these principles in all our affairs from the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm joined by David G. and Nikki M., two of my greatest friends in recovery, and so happy to be with them today. So let's take just a minute. David, why don't you introduce yourself and share a little bit about what's happening in your life these days?
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. Thank you so much for your service, brother. And Nikki, always good to be here with you, sister. I'm David Green. I'm an alcoholic addict of many sorts. Was given a gift of recovery in August of 1994. Been a long time now. And so really grateful to be here. I had an Achilles, I had a spur on my Achilles tendon, and they went in and did some surgery on me. And about 12 weeks, I was to be walking again. But about 4 weeks in, I got a post-op infection. Thank God it wasn't MRSA. But anyway, they went back in, cut everything out that they had done. I was in the hospital about 5 days, and got to come home, and looks like I'm going to be down for probably at least till September, and what we are in June now. So there's still a ways to go, but I'm doing a lot of recovery work, sponsoring a lot of men, speaking a lot of meetings, doing workshops. So, no days off, no matter if you're hurt or not, for me anyway. So good to be here. Thanks.
Wow, David, thanks for the update on that, and prayers continue for you and with you, and good stuff. I'm grateful that you can continue to do this work, no matter if you're physically able to walk or not at this point, really. Nikki, why don't you share a little bit about what's happening with you? This is our first time back together for a little over a month. So what's been happening in your life?
Hi, everybody. I'm Nikki M., and I'm a grateful member, and I love my big book. And I'm just in awe right now. Justin's up at 5:30 a.m., crisp and ready to go on his time zone. My friend David, I heard a promise just drop that God is doing for him what he could never do for himself, that this work is so vital and that he must rest. I'm finding this is a time for people really to slow down. It's 2026, and what's happened is I spent a month in the Caribbean working my program to my best ability while Mr. Luxembourg, which everyone knows about, eats my soul and is a real tool to sharpen my skills of patience and love. And while I was away, my mom had to put down my precious Toby. Some of you know me very well, and that was my savior for a while. Now he's my spirit guide. And on Saturday, my two brothers, my mom's dog, and my mom is away. She's in Calgary in the middle of Canada, and her doggy just dropped to the ground, and 3 hours later, he wasn't breathing. So I'm just a ball of emotions right now. I was very sad last night going, the house is so quiet. And then Mr. Luxembourg laid down with me, and I thought, God is doing for me what I cannot do for myself. And I'm here with my some of my two favorite people in the world. I'm just grateful watching the book come alive.
It's good to be back together. Thanks, Nikki. Thanks, David. I love doing this project, and grateful we can continue marching down this path as we go through the first 164 pages plus the Roman numerals and the forewords that we've gone through over this time. And to you out there in the listening audience, if this is your first time listening, go ahead and enjoy this episode. Read along with us. But man, we've got the entire big book up to where we're at right now, which is, by the way, in the chapter Two Wives. We're on page 112. And we will be reading just a couple of paragraphs today and diving deep into it as we go through this. And Two Wives is chapter 8. So, we've got, I haven't even counted how many episodes we've got on this, but it's well over 100. So grateful to be joining with you today. So grab your big book, highlighter, pen, paper, pencil, whatever it is that you do to take notes and mark things up, muck up your big book, and come right along with us on this journey today. We will be reading on page 112, the paragraph that starts with, suppose, however, And we'll be reading through the top of page 113 and the paragraph that ends with may be delayed. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in and read it, and then we'll be going around the round table and discussing it. Okay, here we go. Suppose, however, that your husband fits the description of number 2. The same principles which apply to husband number 1 should be practiced. But after his next binge, ask him if he would really like to get over drinking for good. Do not ask that he do it for you or for anybody else. Just would he like to? The chances are he would. Show him your copy of this book and tell him what you have found out about alcoholism. Show him that as alcoholics, the writers of the book understand. Tell him some of the interesting stories you have read. If you think he will be shy of a spiritual remedy, ask him to look at the chapter on alcoholism. Then perhaps he will be interested enough to continue. If he is enthusiastic, your cooperation will mean a great deal. If he is lukewarm or thinks he is not an alcoholic, we suggest you leave him alone. Avoid urging him to follow our program. The seed has been planted in his mind. He knows that thousands of men, much like himself, have recovered. But don't remind him of this after he has been drinking, for he may be angry. Sooner or later, you are likely to find him reading the book once more. Wait until repeated stumbling convinces him he must act. For the more you hurry him, the longer his recovery may be delayed. You know, as I've gone through this is a series of paragraphs that have really been helpful for me when I'm working with repeat relapsers. Let's go into this, though, and see. David, why don't you take us through these couple of paragraphs and share with us some of your perspectives, your experience, strength, and hope.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Justin, for reading and for all that you do here. And guys, if you've been following along with us any at all, you know that we have been talking about not only to the wise, but it is someone who is, as bound to the alcoholic as I am to alcohol. They are bound to the addict just as much as I am the addiction. And so we've looked at 6 principles of success that started up on page 111 and has followed us all the way down to here. And what Justin just read said, suppose, however, that your husband fits the description of number 2. And we've seen that number 1 was really the guy that says, hey, I don't have a problem. I can handle this. I'm just going through a bad time. No big deal. I'll get over it when I get over it. But number 2 is not like that. He's the real deal. He's the man. He has the obsession to the mind. He has the allergy to the body, the 2 components that make the alcoholic or make the addict. And the book says, suppose you have a husband like him that fits that description. So the same principles, and remember, we're talking about those 6 principles of success that start at the top of page 111 and follows us down to here. Those same principles which applied to number 1 should be practiced. And what were those? If you remember, the 6 principles of success. 1 was that we must never be angry. If you look at the top of page 111, that's exactly what it says. 2, don't tell him what he needs to do. 3, create healthy relationships. 4, let go of the outcome. 5, be helpful, not critical. And number 6, work the steps myself. And we looked at all 6 of those. And if you go back and listen to some of the following episodes, you will see where we broke those down in the sentences. And it says here, that's the same thing that should be practiced. We practiced it with number 1 because he wasn't really the real deal. We could kind of deal with him. Maybe his behavior is a little out of control, but we can deal with that. But when it comes to these next guys, you're probably going to need to practice this, because I'm telling you, we're the type of man who, it doesn't matter if you throw me in jail or prison. It don't matter if you lock me away in an asylum. It doesn't matter if you divorce me. I don't really care, because that obsession is stronger and it's greater than anything that I've ever experienced. The only thing greater than that obsession is the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous as outlined in the book. If love was enough to conquer it in 1987, when my first son was born, it would have been conquered then, because I loved him more than anything. But that was just not the case. So it says, after his next binge. And that's kind of hard. It says, ask him what he really like to get over for drinking for good. And on page 142 of our book, and I'd like to bounce over there for just a second, it's going to ask a question, and we'll be diving deep into these chapters coming up here pretty soon. But in the first full paragraph on page 142 to the implorers, it says this. Next, he can be assured that you do not intend to lecture, moralize, or condemn. And that's a very good principle to practice with guys like I am. If that was done formally, it was because of a misunderstanding. This kind of ties back into the wives. They misunderstand the disease of alcoholism. They think threats and love and all this other stuff is enough to heal me, but it's not. If possible, express the lack of hard feeling toward him at this point. It might be well to explain alcoholism, the illness. In other words, step one, if you know that. If you don't, then, principle number 6 probably should apply. Work the steps. Say that you believe he's gravely ill. Step 1. Person, but does he want to get well? Keywords, get well. You ask because many alcoholics being warped and drugged do not want to quit, but does he? Will he take every necessary step, submit to anything? In other words, work these principles like his life depends upon it, because it absolutely does, to get well, to stop drinking. Keyword right here, forever. Not just for 24 hours, not for just a day. Do you want to quit for good? And if you do, then we have a program for you. And in my case with sponsees, if you don't, best of luck to you. I hate it you didn't get the results you were looking for from the work you didn't do, but have a good one. And so, not that he do it for anyone else, just what he liked to, back on page 112. Bottom paragraph, the chances are he would. Show him your copy of the book and tell him that you have found out about alcoholism. And page 94 kind of connects to this in our book. So if we bounce there for just a second, we will kind of look at the correspondent of it. And at the bottom paragraph on 94, and it says this: your candidate may give reasons why he need not follow all of the program. I don't mind admitting I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, I guess I can believe in the power. I may pray, I may not, but be damned if I'm going to start writing a bunch of stuff and going and making amends and telling you everything I've done in my life, And so it says he may rebel at the thought of a drastic house cleaning, which is step 4, which requires discussion with other people. That's step 5. Don't contradict it. Tell him, hell, good luck. And, tell him you once felt as he does, but you doubt whether you'd made much progress had you not taken action in steps 4 through 9. So on your first visit, tell him about the fellowship, not the program, the fellowship, and show him. If he shows interest, then lend him a copy of the book. And over here on 112, it's asking us to do the exact same thing. Show him the copy of your book. Tell him you found out about alcoholism, step 1. Show him that the writers of the book understand. Tell him that some of the interesting stories you read, Bill's story, Jim's story, Fred's story, Man of 30, the stories you read. If you think that he'll be shy on a spiritual remedy, which is the solution, by the way, then ask him to look on the chapter to alcoholism, and not only look at the drinking, but to look at the state of mind that precedes that drink, or precedes that action, or that lust, or that acting out, or that gambling, or that shame, guilt, remorse, whatever it may be. Take a look at that. But just remember this isn't only to the chapter of the wives, it is to those who are bound to the alcoholic as much as I am to alcohol or the addiction. So then perhaps he'll be interested enough to continue. If he is enthusiastic, I love that word. For me, that word means filled with God's Spirit. I'm enthusiastic when I do this work. I am. If you're not, oh, well, that's your deal, not mine. I'm enthusiastic of what God has done in my life and what he's continuing to do. And that'll mean a great deal. If he is lukewarm or thinks he's not an alcoholic, then we suggest you, and this is going to be hard, Al-Anons, leave him the hell alone. Leave him alone. It's not your business. Fix, manage, control, all of that equals no. Leave him alone. Avoid urging him to follow our program. What? I thought he needed to get sober and work the steps right away. Oh my gosh, what do you mean leave him alone? Well, the seed has been planted into his mind, and let's bounce for a minute real quick to the 4th edition, real quick. I want to get to my sister Nikki here, but second paragraph in the fourth edition says this: literature has played a major role. In my book, I have only. It's played the only role in this alcoholic's life. In AA's growth, a striking phenomenon in the past quarter century has been the explosion of translation into our basic literature into many languages and dialects. In country after country where and here's the key words that connect, AA seed has planted, it has taken root. Slowly at first, isn't that the case with most of us alcoholics? It kind of takes slowly at first, but then look what happens if we enthusiastically work the program with someone who's been there. We grow by leaps and bounds. And so, that's exactly what it's saying back over here on page 113. The seed has been planted in his mind. And, there's something magical about planting a seed in the ground. The good thing about it is it's been given everything it needs to grow. We can't really see what's going on under the ground, but it's beginning to grow roots before a stem can push through the earth and then ultimately grow. And that's how the alcoholic, at least in my case, has been. And it says he knows thousands of men just like himself who have recovered. And today I can say that's me. But don't remind him of this after he's been drinking, for he may be angry. In other words, pick your battles. Pick what you want to do. And remember again, page 111, very top, look at that sentence, for he may be angry. Look at on page 111 what the first principle of success is at the top of that page. You should never be angry. So whether he is or not, you don't have to be, and because that only hurts you. And so sooner or later, you're likely to find him to read the book once more. That's a promise. Wait until repeated, stumbling, convincing that he must take action. Correspondent to that is page 95. I don't want to run over there. I don't want to eat up too much more time. But the more you hurry, the longer his recovery may be delayed. So, it's beautiful, beautiful the way that we correspond, the way that we connect. These are the chapters we live by after the spiritual experience has taken place. These are the principles and how they are to be practiced. Those 6 principles of success are pretty powerful if they're practiced. So, Justin, I'm going to quit right there. I want to hear Miss Nikki, and thank you guys for letting me be.
Yeah, thank you, David. And, it's so good to be back together. I'm hearing all sorts of things for seemingly the first time, even though I'm sure I've heard them all before. This is good stuff. Nikki, talk to us about your experience, strength, and hope on those paragraphs.
Well, I'm just smiling ear to ear as David does the dance. Justin, we love that Big Book dance with him. And there's just so much stuff here, and I will be mindful of the time. So suppose that your person, see, it doesn't matter. And where you say two wives, right, to the codependent, to the people snorter, to the hostage taker, to the fantasy addict. This chapter is for everyone on the planet. If they fit the description of number 2, what's that? Lack of control. And I love how David took us to the 6 principles. That's why, Justin, you and I need to be here. I know that because it's just this book comes alive with David, which applies to husband number 1, should be practice. Everyone, this is about practicing. This is a program. Remember, your old programming doesn't work. We're all looking for a new program. You have an old computer that just doesn't run. And so you need a new program. And this is it. The Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous needs to be practiced daily. Okay? And after any binge, after any losing control, Al-Anon, after you rip through the house like a tornado, ask yourself, everyone read this in first person with me. Ask yourself if you really want to stop thinking, acting, being, doing like that for good. Ask yourself. It says, do not ask that he do it for you. Ask yourself, would you like to stop this crazy, insane thinking, behavior, chaos? I just got fired by, love that word, fired by a sponsee. And, this person said, my one of my people is, I'm going to go very anonymous because they're very sensitive. My person is bipolar. And this is a person in their family. And I said, go to page 21. This is Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. This person isn't bipolar. They have Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde alcoholism. Do they want to stop acting and thinking like this for good? Because this is all in your thought life, all in your thought life. The chances are you would. You want to stop. So look at the copy of the Big Book. Look at it, okay? And if you have someone in front of you, I am shoving it. People are dying right now, you guys know. That's why when David said he has time off, it's like, of course you do. We need you on the firing lines, sir. This is a spiritual battle, okay? So what have you found out about alcoholism? Well, right away, the people I take through, I say, you will stop drinking. You will stop using cocaine. You will pick up people. You will pick up food. You will pick up scrolling your life away. You will pick up watching porn and lose your job because you're watching incomprehensible things at your job professor, true stories. Sober. You understand? You will pick up fantasy addiction and you will pick up putting piles of fear and piles of worry. You will chop it up. You will swallow it, choke it down, and you will die sober. So I show the alcoholic, the addict, the person suffering from the disease of alcoholism. And I love how David just did the dance. I don't need to repeat what David said because the book does understand. I'm like, what? Bill Wilson, Bill W. was a white guy in 1922, and I'm some crazy mixed lady up in Canada, and we have the same exact life. Are you nuts? That's me and my brothers at the table. It's like, I'm a woman, and we all have the same exact story and have one solution, this power. So some interesting stories you have read. Get in there, you guys, because I'm like, what? I'm like the Southern dude. I'm like the Indian in the back, the pilot. Like, what are you talking about? Twinning, read these stories. And if you think she will be shy of a spiritual remedy, I don't like God, Nikki. No one is looking for God. We are looking for power. Came to believe a power. Not God. Everyone's looking for power. G-O-D, it's a word. David took us through the spiritual term exercises on page 47. Wake yourself up. Spirit world, okay? And then ask him to look on the chapter of alcoholism. Well, Justin, you know the book I use and the workbook. And I don't know, David, if you've ever looked through it, but you've got months off to look through it, okay? And on the very first page of this workbook, it lists every disease of alcoholism. I'll just, I always say it, whether it's, the gamblers, it's everything. That's why I love my David G. He's my muse on alcoholism because he was sober. And he was picking up long-term chips and his life was nuts. And he can tell you that story. He has a whole series everywhere around the world on it. Then perhaps she will be interested enough to continue. My line out says for a lifetime. See, I've been here 14 years. I don't play. You can go to other rooms. I'm not for you. I was just listening to our podcast from a couple episodes back. It was the alcoholic number 4. And I loved it. Comes out on Thursday. I review it. I set up a little thing and I spam it to all our fellowships. David, if you need me to, forward it to you, let me know. And so people can hear it. And long story short, the number 4, they just die. 2 of mine died. I talked about it. And I almost died. And I almost committed homicide, suicide, because I can't live without you when you're sick. I can't live without that you guys, I just said 2 of my dogs died in 2 weeks. How am I here? And I love what David said, enthusiastic, wholeheartedly. Think about these words, completely. This is not a half measures program. It says, line out. Page 53, God is everything or God is nothing. Cooperation is follow the instruction. I always say that. Doesn't mean you need to become straight or gay or black or white or move to Oklahoma or you need to move to, I love Tennessee. I'm heading there soon. I'm going to America. I can't wait. And if someone's lukewarm, if he's lukewarm or thinks he's not an addict, you know what I say? Let me know that's working out for you. I'm in my hot tub. I'm in my sauna. I just got back from a 3-week Caribbean vacation in my island of Dominica. Mr. Luxembourg extended his ticket, Justin. I couldn't believe this. Another 3 weeks. And Coco's gone. I needed it. He's in the spirit world. Avoid urging him. I was thinking, I was smiling when David was reading this, and you were too, because I am a black belt. Go. I have to choose me. See, deep down inside every man, woman, and child is a fundamental idea of God. Page 55. I must choose me. This is a program. The seed has been planted in me. So David took us through all that. We know thousands of people like ourselves who have recovered. We're all sitting at the table, different stories, different parts of the world, and we have recovered from a fake news, seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. But don't remind her of this after they've been in a rage, a blackout codependency. You guys know my sponsee, and she's done a recording. I think she's episode, I don't know, Justin, 13, Sarah B. She's a blackout codependent. That's how I started taking people through the big book and cross out DR and put in TH for your thinking. She was a blackout codependent with nothing in her system. That's a lot of you dry drunks. So never be angry. I mean, this is why we stay for a lifetime, and remind them, wait until repeated stumbling. You're beyond human aid. So let me know how that works out for you. Go to your other rehab, spend more money, move across the country, get another pocket dog, get another husband. You're beyond human aid. So I just love this book, this way of life, because I don't want to hurry anyone. This is not an overnight matter. Let me get some water on my frog throat. I'm sounding like a man.
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks, David. Real quick, I just want to ask David, and we've talked about this, and I think we'll go through this really quick as we wrap this episode up. The lukewarm. David, you said, hey, if somebody's not ready and willing to do whatever it takes to stop for good, to take these steps and practice these principles, I think what you said was, I'm sorry that the work you didn't do didn't come up with the results that you wanted. Let's talk just a little bit more about that, the lukewarmness, and how we address that in people we're working with without ruining further chances of success. David, what's your experience on that?
Well, I have a lot of people like Nikki that reach out to me from all over the world, just absolutely desperate to do the work. And then once we get into the work, then they don't so much want to do the work. And, they don't mind reading through the first 3 chapters with me very carefully, taking a lot of notes. So the next time they go speak, they can have a lot of cool shit to say that they don't have any experience on. And, it's just on and on and on. But when we get to the several exercises now in Way Agnostics, I used to only just do 2. In fact, when we went back through this, however long ago that's been, I only talked about 2. Now I have about 5. And so, I get them to there. They don't really want to do that too much, or they'll half-ass inventory. And as a result, they start getting sick. They start getting angry. They start getting fearful. And the next thing you know, they may not act out, but they're just miserable and they don't really want to do anything. And so for me, that's what I always say, they call me and they say, hey, this just isn't working out for me. And I say, yeah, absolutely. I understand that. And well, I thought it was going to be this and this. But, there again, I apologize that you didn't get the results you was looking for from the work. And so page 90, it tells us, when we do this interview process in the very beginning, before I ever agreed to sponsor someone, it asks several questions there. Find out all you can about him. But it says it right here. If he doesn't want to stop drinking, don't waste time. For me, if he doesn't want to fully recover, if he doesn't want to, and whether I get another chance to work with him or not, that's not my business. That's God's business, and that's his business. And, I've got a lot of other people that I can point him to, and you do as well, and so does Nikki. And so, but for me, I'm just not going to waste time on somebody who isn't willing to give it their all, because the bottom of what is that? And, let's see here. Real quick is there, page 28, second paragraph says, we in our turn sought the same escape with the desperation of drowning men. I had a boy that drowned at 6 years old, and he fought for his life in that water. I mean, he fought for his life and fought for his life. And so did everybody else. And the ones that was with him, they drowned too. So, unless you come in here with that same kind of desperation of a drowning man to work this program, hey, I wish you well. We got a cool fellowship. You can go hang out and pat each other on the ass and say good meeting. But if you want to do this work, there's going to be some things that's going to be pretty uncomfortable, looking at yourself, discussing it with somebody else, telling things you don't want to tell. There's a lot we got to do here. So if you're not ready for that, and for me, it's like, good luck. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's my experience on it. So.
Man, it gives some great perspective. Thank you, David. Nikki, how about you? What is your take on the don't waste your time or don't ruin a future opportunity for you or for someone else to work with them?
I just love you guys so much, and thank you for that visual. It's a hard visual, David, because Justin and I are parents, and yeah, the desperation. I'm going to tell you guys, at the end of it, my mom's husband of 25 years, he couldn't walk. How did he get the alcohol? Mom brought it to him. That's a hard reality. He was in one of those scooters. He didn't drive. How did he get the prescription pills? My mother brought it to him. You understand? So, it says where David took us, but I like to go to page 96, where it says, waste of time. We find it, top paragraph, we find it a waste of time. My line out says WOT, what? And then my sponsor likes to add in an F, waste of time, the effing time. Because my time is valuable. And I have such a disciplined, consistent, structured life that I don't want to risk that for anyone, because I will not put your needs before mine. I did that for a long time, and I'm grateful. God placed both of you in my life, and I see David as like a superpower sometimes because, David, you have a story that's unbelievable, and you were still suffering. And I do share that with my friends because I want them to hear this podcast because, we're going to live whether or not you do. You understand, this is very radical. So, I look at my mom and maybe she's not living her best life and she's getting, just a mediocre recovery, but that's not my experience. And I'm grateful. When I look in the mirror, I see only me. When I look at you, I see a reflection back at me. Iron sharpens iron. What if I see something in you? It's just something in me. I need to remove the log in my eye before I remove the needle in yours. But so I've learned over the years, it's a waste of time. And you know what I did? And I have been away, and my son, I haven't seen him for a while, but I was away obviously almost a month, and he came over to see me the other day, and he's doing amazing. And you know what I did, moms? I left him alone. You know what I did? I sponsored your babies, the ones who need to be revived by Narcan, the ones who have just come out of the rehab 17 times, the women who are dying, can't see straight, who wake up at 48 years old, no children, only a cat, penniless. And then I'm going to show you the way out. I'm going to help you because I can't help my daughter. I can't help my son. And you know what, you guys? God has taken care of my babies in the most unbelievable way. I'm just waiting for a grandbaby. You two know that. I won't be grandma. I love you.
Thanks, Nikki. Thank you, David. And thank you all for walking along with us as we go through those those few paragraphs that we covered today. Such deep, meaningful things for ourselves to consider, for us to consider as we work with others. Everybody, these principles are things that can and will change everything in our lives as we put them to work. My thoughts on today are to reflect on where am I being, how do I want to put this? Where am I being a waste of time? Where am I not all in? What do I need to do in order to be all in and experience the promises and the rewards of doing this work? And I invite each of us to ask ourselves that question and ask our higher power that question, listen, and when something is brought to our mind, take action. It works when I work it. But if I'm not going to work it, well, congratulations on getting the rewards that I'm not willing to work for. And they're not the rewards that I'm hoping for. Anyways, keep coming back, guys. We'll see you all in our next episode. Work it because you are worth it.